Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into one of the most famous stories from the age of exploration. It's a tale of incredible bravery, unbelievable hardship, and a historical hero who, well, he might not be the hero you think he is. We are setting the record straight on Magellan's unfinished voyage. So, let me ask you a question. Who was the first person to sail around the world? I bet for almost everyone, the name that just popped into your head was Ferdinand Magellan, right? It's what we all learned in school, the legendary explorer who led the first expedition to circumnavigate the entire globe. Well, here's the thing. That answer, it's wrong. Magellan never actually finished the voyage. He died halfway across the world. The real story is so much more dramatic. It's filled with mutiny, starvation, and an unsung hero that history has pretty much forgotten. So the real question is, who actually did it? To really get this epic journey, we have to start with the why. Why would anyone sail into the complete unknown, risking storms, starvation, and almost certain death? And the answer, like it so often is, comes down to money, or to be more specific, spices. Now, it's kind of hard for us to imagine today, but back then, spices were the ultimate luxury. I'm talking more valuable than gold. They were used for everything, flavoring food, medicine, you name it, and they were incredibly rare in Europe. The trade routes were long and dangerous, and Portugal controlled basically all of it, because they had found a route to the Spice Islands by sailing east around Africa. They had a total monopoly. So this is where things get really interesting. You've got this geopolitical chess match going on. Spain was desperate to get in on the action. Columbus tried sailing west in 92, but whoops, he ran into a massive continent no one expected. Then, in 1494, the Pope literally drew a line down a map, giving everything to the east to Portugal and everything to the west to Spain. That meant Spain's only shot was a huge westward gamble. They needed someone to find a backdoor to the Spice Islands. And that's where Magellan enters the picture. Magellan, who was actually a Portuguese captain sailing for the Spanish king, promised he could find that western route. But what came next? Well, it was less a voyage of discovery and more like a 3-year descent into pure hell. This crew faced dangers no European had even dreamed of. Okay, so here's the setup. The fleet was called the Armada de Molucca. You've got 5 ships, a crew of about 270 guys from all over Europe, and the whole thing is funded by a teenage king, all betting on Magellan's belief that there just had to be a passage through the Americas. What could possibly go wrong? After they finally found a strait through South America, which we now call the Strait of Magellan, the crew thought it would be a short trip to the Spice Islands. Nope. Instead, they faced the Pacific Ocean, an unbelievably vast, empty sea. This quote from Antonio Pigafetta, who was basically the expedition's journalist, it just paints this absolutely horrifying picture of their 98-day crossing. Think about it. They were eating leather, sawdust, and rats just to survive. And it wasn't just starvation. The entire mission was just falling apart. You can see the sheer rate of failure here. The Santiago wrecked before they even got to the Pacific. The San Antonio, which had a lot of their supplies, just turned around and sailed back to Spain. The Concepcion got so leaky and the crew was so small they just had to burn it. And the flagship, the Trinidad, was eventually captured. One by one, the ships were just gone. And just when it seemed like things could not possibly get any worse, the expedition suffered its most devastating blow. The man whose vision had driven this whole thing was about to meet his end. So after finally reaching the Philippines, Magellan got a little obsessed with converting the local tribes. He got tangled up in a conflict between 2 local leaders, and in what was really a reckless show of force, he led a small group of his men against a much, much larger force. And he was killed right there on the beach. The great captain was dead, and his expedition was leaderless, thousands of miles from home. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, this is where it takes a really sharp turn. With Magellan gone and the leadership in total chaos, the survivors had to pick a new commander to get them home. And the man they chose was, by all accounts, a very unlikely hero. His name was Juan Sebastián Elcano. And what's so fascinating is just how different he was from Magellan. Magellan was a nobleman, right? The visionary with a grand plan. Elcano was a pragmatic Basque sailor, a guy who had even taken part in an earlier mutiny against Magellan. He wasn't the dreamer, he was the survivor. He was the one with the grit and the practical skill to get that last ship and its skeleton crew home. So Elcano takes command of the last ship, the Victoria. He loads it up with valuable cloves and starts the insanely perilous journey home, dodging Portuguese ships the whole way. And when you look at the final numbers from this voyage, they are just staggering. 3 years! It took them 3 years of almost unimaginable suffering to circle a world they knew almost nothing about. They traveled over 60,000 kilometers. That's more than 1.5 times around the Earth. A journey into the absolute unknown. And in the end, of the 5 ships that set out with such high hopes, just one single ship limped back to Spain. But this is the one that really hits home. Of the nearly 270 men who started the voyage, only 18, the guys who made it home with Elcano, actually completed the circumnavigation. The human cost was just immense. Which brings us right back to our original question. After all of that, after Elcano successfully got the last ship home, completing the first ever circumnavigation of the globe, why does Magellan get all the credit? Well, let's just be technical for a second. The very definition of circumnavigation is completing the journey. It's an endurance race, and the credit has to go to the person who crosses the finish line. Magellan's leadership was absolutely essential to starting the voyage, but he didn't cross that line. Elcano did. Ultimately, it really comes down to this. Magellan was the architect, the ambitious visionary who started it all. But Juan Sebastián Elcano was the one who, against all odds, finished it. He was the survivor. He is, by definition, the first person to sail around the world. And that leaves us with one last thought. You know, history loves to simplify things, to give us easy stories with a single hero. But as we've seen, the truth is often way messier, and frankly, a lot more interesting, filled with forgotten figures like Elcano. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other famous stories have a hidden hero just waiting to be rediscovered? Thanks for joining us.